All right, go ahead, people. Dr. Nicole right here. Yeah, I'm back. Thank you. Hey, how y'all doing? Welcome back to my channel. Listen, I know it's taken me a while, but I'm finally made it. So today we are going to talk about the budget of a scouting trip, how to create your budget, how to plan your budget. I'm even going to give you something to give you a little push, a little boost, if you will. So for those of you who've been following our channel, you know that my family and I, we recently spent 30 days in the beautiful, majestic country of South Africa. And a lot of people are like, what does something like that cost? Right? I'm not trying to get in your business. I just want to know, what does it cost? Right? So I'm going to help you because it's going to vary. I will give you ballparks of kind of what we did, but everyone's scouting trip and everyone's trip looks different, you know? So how much did it cost to spend a month in South Africa? So, what was I saying? Yeah. Was it cheaper than the US? Was it expensive to travel so very far on the opposite side of the globe? What does real life actually cost once you're there? Like, all of these are very relevant questions, right? So today, okay, I'm breaking down the real budget of our 30-day scouting trip and really giving you insights into creating your own. Because maybe you can't do 30 days. Maybe you can only do 2 weeks, you know, or maybe you want to go all out and do 2 months, you know. So we're going to talk flights, housing, food, transportation, activities, experiences, you name it. But more importantly, I'm going to show you how your intentions for the trip can completely change your budget. Because a scouting trip and a hybrid trip and a vacation, yeah, they can cost very different amounts, okay? So if you're new here, I'm Dr. Nicole McCarty, and I'm an integrative health doctor, expert, executive wellness strategist, and our family recently spent 30 days in South Africa exploring whether we could actually live there. And so this wasn't just a vacation budget. This was a real life exploration budget. And that distinction is important. Let's be clear. So my glasses keep falling off my nose. Okay. All right. All right. So the first thing that you want to be mindful of is that you're traveling outside of your home country. There's going to be a foreign exchange rate in regards to currency. And that rate can fluctuate. So we'll talk more about that toward the end. But I would say during our trip, the foreign exchange rate fluctuated between 15.71 and 16.31 for every US dollar. But whatever it is, and again, we'll talk more about it later, this determines how much your particular currency will go. So you must plan for contingencies, and you got to plan for those fluctuations because it's going to fluctuate. And then there are other ways that you can kind of mitigate things. So, but let's dive in. So the first part is your intention determines your budget. Okay, your intention determines your budget. So before we talk about numbers, you need to decide what type of trip you are planning, right? Because this determines almost everything. Is this like purely a scouting trip? Like, well, you're focusing on neighborhoods and housing and daily life and minimal tourism with a budget style that's, you know, very practical, you know, it's very moderate, less luxury. And something like that for 30 days could probably cost you anywhere from like $6,000 to $12,000, mind you, for a family of 5 over 30 days. And then there's your hybrid trip, which is oftentimes the most common because most times you don't travel halfway across the world or to the next country or whatever just to not take in the experiences of that land, right? So we chose a hybrid, and this was mostly scouting, but definitely some experiences, some travel. And so the budget style needed for this, moderate to elevated, because anytime you factor in tourist stuff, the price is going to go up. Okay. I mean, that's the nature of the tourism industry. So budget style for that is moderate to elevated. Estimated total maybe 8 to 18,000. It's a range. It depends on what you're used to and what you need. Again, if you're for a solo traveler or a party of two, then your costs are going to vary significantly than the family of four, the family of five, or the family of six. So these are things to keep in mind. And then, either scouting, there's hybrid, and then there's vacation with light scouting. So we're going to have some vacation with a side of scouting, right? And so here your focus is more on your hotels, your experiences, your sightseeing. The budgets offer this is highest because, again, anything in the tourism industry, the cost is going to go up, right? And so estimating for like a 30-day trip, 12,000 to 25,000. If you are going with like a tourism company, make sure you do your research. Okay, price things out. There are some companies that are pretty affordable, and there are others that are all out expensive. So you choose the type of experience that you want to have, but do your research. Do your research. If you're planning it on your own, then, which we did, and I appreciated it because it allowed a whole lot of flexibility, and we weren't locked into something. We weren't locked into a schedule. We weren't locked in to anything. So we have flexibility to change at will based upon what, we needed at the time or what we felt like. So here's the thing, what I want you to kind of take away from point one. The more you lean toward vacation, the more your costs increase. The more you lean toward scouting, the more practical your spending becomes. All right. So it just depends on what your goals are. Right. So that's number one. Number two are the flights. Like, how are you going to get there? Because you cannot drive. Okay. So in full disclosure, flights will likely be your largest upfront cost. Second to housing, it rivals housing. It might be just as high as housing, if not better, depending on your flight preferences. So typical costs from US to South Africa, flying economy. We were a family of five. We flew economy. Economy was nice. Anywhere from like 600 to 1,800 per person. I think the minimum though has gone up a lot to account for the whole fuel thing. So I don't know if 600 is still true for the lowest possible. It might be a little like 900 per person on the low end. But when we went, which was at the top of the year, we were able to get 625 per person on the way there and 860 on the way back. So, but it fluctuates. It depends on the time of year, and that also plays a role. Like if you go during their winter and the seasons are flipped. So their winter is during our summer, and our summer is during their winter. So it depends on if you're going in December. It's going to be higher. If you're going during the summer months, it's going to be higher. If you're going during like June, July, then it might tend to be a little lower just because it's the winter time, right? So those are things to keep in mind. So flying economy, I think 600, maybe 900, up to like 1,800 per person. Now, if you're a little more bougie and you have the extra capital or the extra resources or points, then you can also go premium economy, which comes with a premium economy price. So like 1,800 to $3,000. And then business class is a whole nother ball game. And that can go from anywhere from like 3,500 to like 15,000. I kid you not, 15,000. I was just like, per seat? Yes, ma'am, per seat. I said, oh, very nice. Okay. But granted, we're flying Etihad and Qatar, which those are airlines that can cater to a certain class of traveler. And so, so they're different tiers. You just choose the one that fits your budget and your style. So when we talk about flights, you also want to look at like the route type, all right? So one stop is always the most common. People are like, listen, I am flying a very long time, a very long distance. I just want to get it over with, one and done. And that's cool. For us, number one, cost played a role. Let's be clear. So, but also the fact that we have small children, we didn't mind a little break for them to get out, stretch their legs, and they did wonderfully on the flight. So I have a flight video. Be sure to check it out. They did a great job. But just, it was nice. And then to see a different place, even if it's just for a couple of hours. We didn't get a chance to do any of the excursions because of the time of our flight and the time period of our layovers. But that is something that we might explore on our way back over there. So the one stop is common, so US to Doha if you're flying Qatar, US to Dubai if you're flying Emirates, US to Abu Dhabi if you're flying Etihad, or US to Europe. I think France, and I think there's another place that's a stop. And then you take that connecting flight after your layover to South Africa. So again, the pros for this are cheaper. There are more options, but the cons are, you have longer travel. So instead of getting there the next day, you get there in a day and a half later, which isn't that bad. You might leave the evening of one day, you're flying, and you get there the morning of the day after the next day. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, if you leave Sunday night, you might arrive Tuesday morning. Yes. So those are your one stops. And then you have those that have fewer stops, right? Those are premium routes. I want to get there. I want to do it one time. That's it, right? And so it's a shorter travel time. It's less exhausting. It is more expensive, so to each his own, right? And so for us, I think I already told you our low end was $625, $630, and then our high end on the way back on the way back it was $860. I'll double check and I'll put it down at the bottom. But yeah, so that was that time. Now, looking at flights for our next trip, flights have changed. Flights have changed, and it fluctuates depending on the carrier. It fluctuates. Of course, it's going to fluctuate because right now, it's a lot going on in the world, and we're just going to leave it at that. So, yeah. So things are changing. Jet fuel is higher. Prices are higher. It's a lot. But if you don't take anything else away from the flight portion, think flights are a major investment, right? And being flexible can save you thousands of dollars, especially as a family. So unless you have to be locked in, I would choose my lodging based upon my flight times as opposed to the other way around. Okay. And then once you land, your daily cost structure shifts significantly. So let's talk about housing, right? Where you stay will shape your entire experience. Kid you not. So if you're thinking hotels tend to be, I don't know, $80 to $300 plus a night. They can get up there, but they're very nice, very clean hospitality for days, right? But these are best for short stays, for your vacation style trips. Those are great, Second option, Airbnb or your short-term rentals. These are really nice, really popular, anywhere from $60 per night to $250, $350 plus. And it really just depends, but these are best for families, for scouting trips, for longer stays. You're in a home, it's got everything for you. So it's got the dishes, the appliances, all the things, and you just live, right? So so our numbers, we paid about $181 a night for our first Airbnb and about $343 a night for our second. And our second was in Cape Town. So our first one was in Johannesburg. Our second was in Cape Town. They were for varying amounts of time. Again, this is for a family of 5. So these were 4-bedroom, 3-bath homes, very spacious, had everything that you can think of, very easy to live in, So those were nice, and safe neighborhoods, etc. And then you have your estate or residential living, which can kind of correspond with Airbnb. And with this, you get your security, your community, your real life experiences. You get to see families walking down the street and kids playing on their bikes and all the things. And those can cost about around about your Airbnb prices, I suppose, for the 30 days, and considering our two locations, our two different Airbnbs for those varying amounts of days. Ours was about 6,000 in housing and lodging. So, I mean, considering, not bad, right? It can go up depending on how lavish your housing. So keep that in mind. There are some very, very luxurious properties in South Africa. Don't get it twisted. Gorgeous. I mean, mind blown. So check this out. Here's a quick stat. Rent in Johannesburg is around 40 to 70% lower than like most major U.S. cities, and then larger space, and then you get larger spaces available for a lower cost. So, I mean, like the homes here, the average home in the U.S., I would say, the average single family home, I would say, in the middle to upper class neighborhood might be anywhere from 450K to a million, depending on where you are, right? Depending on where you are in the country. Because in places like California, yeah, you can get a different type of house with the budget than what you would get in Georgia or in Florida, or for instance, in New York. Like it, all that depends. So, but just think in the grand scheme of things, right? And so living in these estate areas, living in the secured areas, you get security, you get community, you get real life experiences. And here's the thing, what I want you to remember, if you want to understand life, then you need to live like residents, not visitors. Like that's it. That's why you come there. If you're doing a scouting trip, that's the whole point. You live like residents, not like visitors. Okay, so we talked about like the majors, right? Now we're going to back up a little bit and talk about something else that's very, very important. And I said I would come back to this. So here's a bonus. You can thank me later. Make sure you have travel credit card. If at all possible, make sure you have a travel credit card. Use the travel credit card, right? It can save you hundreds of thousands. Okay. Here's what you look for. You look for no foreign transaction fees, travel points and miles, and travel insurance. Some even offer travel insurance. So think your foreign transaction fees are typically like 1% to 3% per purchase. Think about how quickly that adds up if that's what you're using, right? It'll add up quickly. Over 30 days, you'll be like, oh, it wasn't that much, until you look at the sum total and you're like, oh, I spent that? Yes, you did. Okay. So those are things that you think about. The one that we like, Capital One Venture. Great rates. It depends, but like you have Capital One Venture, you've got like Chase. It's not Sapphire. I can't remember that one. Each banking institution has like their own, and then you've got like city cards, and you've got a plethora to choose from. So like I would put into Google like travel credit cards with no foreign transaction fees and see what comes up, and then look at the specs of each one and see what fits your lifestyle most, right? So that's one thing. Definitely use the travel credit cards, okay? The other thing that is probably the most important, and I talked about it briefly at the beginning, currency and exchange. So in the US, we use the US dollar. In South Africa, they use the ZAR or the Rand, okay? And so the exchange rate, if you've never traveled abroad, then here's something. The exchange rate fluctuates constantly, okay? So historically, it's been anywhere from like 15 to 1920 ZAR per USD. But let me tell you why it matters, right? If the Rand weakens, your dollar goes further. If it strengthens, then your trip becomes more expensive. Okay, so check this out. You have $1,000 USD. That is equivalent at an exchange rate of 15 ZAR. That's going to give you 15,000 Rand. at an exchange rate of 18 ZAR, it's going to give you 18,000 Rand. That's a 20% plus difference in spending power. 20%. So exchange rate matters, and so if you're planning on using, like if you plan your trip based on a ZAR of 17 and you have no room for leeway, you're in trouble, my friend. If that ZAR drops to 15, you're in trouble. So you have to take that into consideration because it matters and it will impact your spending. It will impact your trip and you won't feel it until you're halfway through your trip and you're like, wait a minute. I know I planned better than this. So here are my tips to you. Monitor the exchange rates before your trip. Know what you're going into. Use bank cards with no foreign transaction fees. Sometimes there are some military institutions that also honor this. Honestly, we just used our credit card because really we want the miles because the miles will help us fly. So I need it to work. I need it to work together, right? And then withdraw cash locally instead of using the airport exchange. And so you can withdraw cash there locally in the country. Here's the cheat code though. Bring your own cash. So of course you want to have a small USD reserve, small, but a lot of times if you're going out to restaurants or whatever, you're not going to tip them in USD. That's not their currency, right? So they may or may not take it. We ran into that. So you can withdraw local currency in an ATM. That's going to come with a lot of fees. Or you can just use your credit card. Doop. And everything is done internally. All you do is tap. That's it, right? And then the other part is you can request another country's currency from your bank before your trip. So I know Bank of America does this. I believe almost every bank does this, but we purchased a certain amount of Rand or ZAR and we purchased it here and then we traveled with it so that we would have money to tip. Now this is where, because I don't know if I talked about this yet. I don't know if I've done a video on this yet, but I will. But it's a tipping culture. And so you need Rand as tip money to give to people who help you. And it's how they make a living. And so, so there were sometimes like we had just enough, but hindsight and next time we'll go over with a whole lot more. But yeah, it's easier when you can tip on your credit card, no problem. But if you're going through the airport or, something like that, or you're like car guards, all those are cash transactions. So it's easier for you to just have that Rand or ZAR on hand to tip. So yeah, currency and exchange. So the next part, food. Oh, one of the great wonders of the world. All right. So food is one of the biggest differences. It's where we were surprised because I think it made the biggest impact. So we went to the grocery store, Woolies. It's amazing. Fan favorite. Love it. Right. So monthly estimate, I think when we were in Joburg, I think we were there 3 weeks and I want to say we did two Woolies orders. One was like $230. The other one was like $100 something. And it was a lot of food, a lot of fresh produce, fresh meat, fresh chicken. They had the like lamb sausages, lamb bangers, I think. So just good food. I mean, good, wholesome food. Our bodies like craved it. They were like, yes, this is what nutrition looks like and feels like. Yeah, it was great. So for a family of 4 or 5, I would say, I don't know, you can estimate between maybe $400 to $1,000. It really depends on how much you eat. It depends on how much you're going grocery shopping and how much you're eating out. When it comes to dining out, the prices are, can't beat them. Okay. So like casually, you think like $5 to $10 a person, maybe. A mid-range restaurant, maybe 15 to 20. And then a higher end is going to be like your 20 to 35, 40. If it comes with an experience like Gold Restaurant in Cape Town, then it might go a little higher than that, of course. But then your whole structure of food is changing and you're getting a ton of food and it's just different. So dining out varies, but it's much cheaper. I will say, for us, it felt accessible. It felt enjoyable. It felt family friendly. They love kids. South Africa is a country that caters to children. They believe in kids being kids and being wholesome, and I love it. And so the question is not like, is it cheaper? The question is, can we sustain this lifestyle comfortably? And it felt good. Here's a look at the numbers. So compared to the US, groceries, there are 20 to 40% cheaper. I'm pretty sure that is growing by the minute because groceries here in the US, they are sky high. It is plain ridiculous. And then dining, anywhere from like 30 to 60% cheaper. So for instance, we can go out to, like, we go out for breakfast, right? Going out for breakfast there, I want to say it might have been like 50 or 60 bucks for a family of four, family of five. That included tip, I believe. Whereas here, here, 80, 90, 100. I mean, for a family of four or five, right? So it can get pricey. So the cost difference for both grocery shopping and dining out, very cost effective. And I think this is what we saw the most. In terms of transportation, rental cars are fairly affordable, right? I think they're like $20 to $60 per day. Fuel is higher. Fuel tends to be more expensive than what we find in the States. And then, of course, with this whole thing happening, everything is going up, right? But we utilized rideshare and we utilized personal transportation. And so the rideshare was really, really affordable. Really affordable compared to most US cities, averaging about $4 to maybe $8 per trip. I think the most expensive trip we took was maybe 10. And that was one time. And we were going a little further out. So that can fluctuate. It depends on how many people are traveling. It depends on where you're going, the distance you're going. Like, so that there are a lot of factors. It depends on how bougie you are. Okay. Everyone's got their preference. So, but either driving or doing a ride share, it does give you the freedom to explore the neighborhoods because you can actually take it in. I know with rideshare, it was nice because you could actually look and pay attention to where you were as opposed to driving and trying to focus and make sure you stayed on the right side of the road. And by right, I mean correct side of the road. So yeah, so you get to explore neighborhoods and then you get to observe daily life. So all of those are nice perks when it comes to transportation. Now, when it comes to real estate tours, we have a wonderful company in Johannesburg. It was Herbie Mang Tour Consultants. In Cape Town, it was Bradley. I will put their information in the description as well, and I'll drop it at the bottom here. But doing real estate tours and private transport is always a win. With both of those, the gentlemen, oh my God, they're so freaking knowledgeable. Like, you just learn stuff. They talk and you just learn all kinds of cool things that you would never learn anywhere else, right? So those are useful for like your airport transfers and your real estate tours. When you're, guided neighborhood tours or what have you, they can give you an idea of what is close to what. If you need to be close to a particular school for your kids, if you need to be close to the city for work, if you prefer to be far out, if you prefer to be more rural, they can give you an idea because it's a new country. So you need to talk to people who live there, people who are locals, right? Because they know, right? So, and those per day, about 150, maybe a little higher. In some instances can be lower. It just depends on if you're doing like a full day, a half a day, I don't know. But but it's general, right? If you're scouting seriously, then like some tours are free. So what we did on a couple times, what we would Uber to the property, and then we would hop in the car with the real estate agent, and then they would take us around to see some of the different properties. And so that was nice. That was a really nice convenience. And they were very, very kind to do so. So that's a way that you can kind of scout. You can ride with your real estate agents. And then, of course, you can do private relocation tours, which can get really pricey. They can be like 500 a day is just ridiculous. Please don't pay that. But if that's what you want to do, go ahead. But that's a lot for a day. That's a lot. Not unless you're taking me to 12 places. That's a lot. And you're going to feed me filet mignon. That's a lot. Okay. But nonetheless, just do your research. Find something that works for you. Find something that works in your budget. Do your research. And real estate tours are important because this is the most valuable part of your scouting trip. It's the whole point of why you're there, right? So you're not just looking at homes, you're looking and evaluating your future lifestyle. You're looking at neighborhoods, you're looking at proximity to schools, you're looking at where your kids are going to grow up. You're looking at all these things. What's best for your family? So don't skip on that part. It's important. Just choose wisely and do your research. Listen, if anything, ask questions. You can ask me a question. If I don't know the answer, I'll point you in the direction of someone who can answer you and give you some insight. Okay. But yeah. And then activities. The other part is activities. So if you're doing a hybrid trip, which is what we did, then we did our scouting. We did all the business, and then we had fun. Right. And so your activities, these are local experiences, guided tours, premium experiences, things like Lesedi Cultural Village and Karachi's fashion experience and Elephant Sanctuary or Lion Safari Park or varying safaris or, just there's so much. There's so much. But it depends on what you're doing as opposed to like the cost point. So some of your experiences might be like $5 to $20. Some of those guided tours might be like 20 to 100 plus. And then if you get your premium experiences, those can go far beyond 100 plus. So, you can choose, and there's so much to do. You can choose and you can plan your own vacation. You can. Don't think you can't. So you can absolutely do that with no problem. And if you need help, just reach out. And I'm going to drop a link below, and if that should at least try to help you. But if you want to talk one-on-one, I'm game. So anyway, that is that. So scouting versus your vacation impact. Your scouting trip, lower activity costs. Your vacation trip, significantly higher. Significantly higher. One thing that I forgot to mention with the exchange rates. Remember that your spending power changes with the exchange rates. So you have to pay attention to those things. Always check them before your trip. Okay. Check the rates before your trip. Look at the trend. Not that the trend will always be a realistic picture of what it's going to do, because that's not necessarily the case, but it does give you an idea. And then you can use apps to track the fluctuations, or just use apps for tracking. Oftentimes, like one that was easy, if you have an iPhone, then you can go into the calculator. You can choose conversions or something. Hold on. Go into the calculator. It's in basic, and then you check convert. And then I think it will give you the option to, choose like currency, and then you can choose what country. So like South African Rand, USD. And then I used that for the large portion. It was a quick way to kind of get an idea of what something cost. Not that it was always like spot on, but it gave me an idea of what it cost. So, and you can type in like $1, you can type in $10, and it'll show you what the Rand equivalent is. You can type something in. If you see something in Rand that you like, you're like, oh, that's 15,000 Rand. What is that in dollars? Then you can just type 15,000 Rand and it'll plug in and tell you what that is in USD. So it's very convenient. My husband used another one. I want to say it was Global Connect. I'll find out what it is and I'll put it in the description. World Remit, I believe, is another one where you can check the exchange rate, so you can just follow like what it's doing and how it's trending. And Google, hello, Google is your friend, okay? And so if all else fails, you don't want to do an app, type it in Google and then plug it in. The apps just make it easy because you can just open up and go. So, concluding, some things that surprised us were like the food, the dining, certain housing, the things that required more planning, flights, accommodations, transportation, right? And so the biggest takeaway I think I want you to take is the value of the experience matters more than the numbers. Numbers matter because you have to be able to pay for it. But the value of the experience matters way more. So don't get caught up in trying to like keep up with the Joneses, because nobody knows who they are anyway. Who cares, right? Do what's best for you and your family. Have a good time, explore, experience, and enjoy, So what did 30 days in South Africa cost? Well, the answer is it depends. Okay, it depends on how you choose to experience it. Because what we did may not be what's right for you and your family. Maybe you're a family of 3 as opposed to a family of 5. Maybe you want to do more vacationing and less scouting. The combinations are endless. So you determine how you want to experience it, and then you judge, you plan your trip based on that. So as a little gift, I created a scouting trip blueprint. It is very basic, but it serves as like this roadmap just to help guide you, so you're not like trying to remember everything on your own, because it's a lot. I did it. It's a lot. Okay. So it'll help you plan your budget. It'll help you kind of like track your expenses. It'll help you evaluate your lifestyle. So you're not just spending. You're making a decision. And then once you've planned this trip, then your eyes are already open and you're more keen to like, okay, spending. Because I did budget checks all through the trip. I was like, wait, hold on, let's see. Are we still in the budget? Because anytime you vacation, it's easy to blow a budget. It is. It's easy to blow the budget. So I was very particular, as my husband will say. He'll probably say something different, but it's all right. He appreciated it. So anyway, remember, you're not just spending, you are making a decision. And yeah, so I hope you found this video helpful. It's more than your garden variety. Like, this is what things cost. I wanted to give you perspective because planning your scouting trip is very much so a personal thing. So thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share, follow, all the things. And I probably should have said that's the middle of the video, and I'll probably add it. But anyway, I will see you soon. More to come. Love and blessings. And I'll talk to you later. Toodles.